Pass it on to Arizona President Robert Robbins, and then we will have remarks from our new head coach, Kevin Sumlin. Following those remarks, we will open up for question and answer. We do have wireless mics that we will pass around, so please identify yourself and speak clearly into the mic as you ask your question. So give us a couple minutes to make sure we get you a mic. I'll do my best to kind of point people out, but let's work together on getting the questions done. Following the question and answer session, we will have a photo op with the three gentlemen to my left and a jersey. We will have still photographers be able to move towards the center to get a good shot. We will also make that shot available for videographers in the back. Following that, Dave Hickey will be available to the media for informal interviews, and Coach Sumlin will be visiting with the alumni and other folks that are in the room, honored guests here today. So, Dave?
All right. Hey, thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate it. Hey, welcome, everyone. Tremendous turnout. Appreciate our good friends here, our many former players, alums, lots of our current staff in the room, and we're just thrilled to have everyone with us and to have this opportunity. It's really a big day for Arizona, the university, our athletic department, our football program. So what I'm going to do first is turn it over to our president, Dr. Bobby Robbins, for some opening comments, and we'll move through it. So, Dr. Robbins.
Dave, thank you. Welcome, everyone, to a great day in the history of Arizona football. 13 days ago, Dave Hickey and I made a decision to go in a different direction with our football program, and he set out on a search, an extensive national search to find the next leader for Arizona football. And I asked him to find someone who was going to be of the highest character, who was going to focus on academics, and was going to win. And we've got our man right here, Coach Kevin Sumlin. And I am thrilled, Coach, that you're here today. I got to meet your sons, Jackson and Joey, last night. I immediately started the recruitment process on Jackson, since he's a proud winner of a Texas 5A football championship. Got to play in Jerry's world, so that is, we hope he will be a future Wildcat. So as I was going around the campus last week while this process was going on, I visited 4 classes. These were classes of about 300 to 350 students in each class, and I was there to talk to them about the important strategic planning process that we're doing at this university. The first question I asked them is, who should be our next football coach? And the answer I got over and over was Kevin Sumlin. So finally, in the 4th classroom, I asked the man, why do you think we should get Kevin Sumlin? And he proceeded in very poised and very articulate fashion to tell me he's been a winner everywhere he's been, including the toughest division in college football. He has been a mentor of young men and a leader. He's done that with poise and character. He's been a great developer of quarterbacks. We actually have a quarterback here that I think he's going to enjoy working with. He's got one of his former pupils in the NFL playoffs. And most importantly, he's going to be able to recruit California, Las Vegas, Arizona, and Texas, where we haven't done as well. And I was able to, and so I told him, I don't know how you're going to do in this class, but I'd give you an A+ in sports management and football analytics. I got the privilege of, I had never met Coach Sumlin until this week. And I got the privilege of watching him from afar when I was at Stanford, and what he was able to do at the University of Houston. When you win 12 straight, people start watching you. And then when I arrived in Houston, I got the chance to watch him up close and personally with the tremendous job that he did at Texas A&M, who has a great tradition of football. The thing I observed is that he was good in all 3 phases of the game on the field, but most importantly, he was great off the field. And that was another thing that I was looking for, was someone who could be a leader, not only of this football program, but an ambassador for this university. And I saw that in Coach Sumlin and how he conducted himself all across Texas. I was able to see him speak in large groups. I watched him very closely in his press conferences, his demeanor on the sideline, and no matter what the situation, I never saw him out of control. He's poised, he was confident, and that's the kind of person that I wanted to see here. It's like Stuart Scott, the former ESPN analyst, would say, he was always as cool as the other side of the pillow. So I am so happy that Coach Sumlin is here. This is going to be a tremendous start to a long-term, successful run for Arizona football. Finally, before I turn it over to Dave Hickey, I just want to thank him for all that he's done since he's been here. He beat me here a couple of months, and he's done a tremendous job with this athletic department. He has got great staff from top to bottom around him. But I think, as I was telling Coach Sumlin, he is going to love the family of coaches we've got at this institution. They are outstanding, and he's going to have a great time here. But, Dave, thank you very much for your leadership, and particularly going out and getting Coach Sumlin, who is going to transform Arizona football and restore us to national prominence and championship football. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Robbins. I appreciate it very much, and I appreciate your comments. Again, welcome, everyone, and thanks for being here. I want to just take a couple minutes to recognize a few people. I do want to thank our staff here on the ground here in Tucson. Great job. I have been on a little bit of a sprint that sometimes felt like a marathon. Really good people doing a lot of work behind the scenes. I want to thank them. I do want to thank Dr. Robbins for his involvement in the process. Really a bold vision. You know, he challenges us every day here at this institution to think differently, to look at it a little bit differently, to analyze it a little bit differently, and that bold vision that he has for the university, for the athletics program, for everything we do across campus. And I appreciate his guidance and support through the process. I want to thank our search consultants at DHR, Glenn Sugiyama, for a truly professionalized search. These are difficult processes to go through, and this was handled with a great deal of professionalism and class throughout the entire process. I want to recognize Jeff Stevens, one of our great supporters, and I know we have many in the room, but Jeff was a big part of this in making this a smooth and a seamless process, and we really appreciate his involvement and his support as we go forward. You know, today's a fantastic day for the University of Arizona, for this athletics program, for this football program. It's really a transformational day. A new chapter of Arizona football begins, and there's been some great chapters here. Tremendous chapters of football, and we're ready to write another one. As we begin the next chapter, I think it's really interesting. We talked a little bit about this morning. You know, all of us have a different story of how we get to Arizona and the connections that we have, because this is a place about great people, and they're connected as Wildcats. They're connected to the University of Arizona. And, you know, today we're connected through a little town in Alabama, Bruton, Alabama, where Coach Sumlin's from, and where one of our other great coaches was from. So it's very interesting to me that we have those connections and we go back. But obviously our great connection to Fred Snowden from the same small town in Alabama, and that road leads to Tucson. Some say it's a historical day, and you know what it is. We broke a barrier. We should be really proud of that. But today is also a day. Clearly, we found the right guy to lead this program, the right person, the right head coach, the right leader to be the next guy to take Arizona football forward and to be a part of our staff here. So we're very, very excited about that. I want to just take a minute and talk about process. I know there'll be lots of interest in that. When Dr. Robbins and I made a decision to move in a different direction with our football program, you know, we really took the opportunity to step back and assess, where is our football program? What are the pieces that we need? Where do we want to go in the future? How can we continue to move towards a championship caliber? How can we engage people, our former players, coaches, our alums? Really tried to take stock in what we needed to do for that next chapter. You know, we tried to identify what we're looking for. And we were looking for a person and a coach who had great integrity and character, who fits what we want, who fits what we want to be and who we are here, who shares our vision and values, develops young men into men, leads young men forward as they go through their process here on campus. As Dr. Robbins said, an ambassador for this university. Yes, for the football program, yes, for athletics, but for the entire university. Committed to academics and graduating our players, our student athletes. You know, that's what we're in it here for. It's having a great experience, but graduating those young men and our student athletes that are here. Obviously want an excellent football coach that knows football. A proven recruiter, outstanding record of great recruiting in many of the areas that are important to Arizona and our future. Someone who values the community, values community service for our young men, the ability to connect in Tucson with our alums, our university alums, and the state of Arizona and nationally, but really engaged and wants to be out there and be connected. We needed someone to inject, reinvigorate energy reinvigorate this program, inject energy into this program again. And those were the key elements as we went through the search process. It was a thorough and deliberate process. I think some of you have heard me talk before. We'll move swiftly, but we'll do it the right way. We'll do it thoughtfully, deliberately, and carefully. It was extensive. We wanted to move quickly, but correctly as we went forward. Overwhelming interest, obviously nationally. It's a testament to this program and the things that have been done here before in football and otherwise, and the great university we have. I took my time to talk to a lot of different people connected to the game of football around the country, athletic directors, coaches, administrators, commissioners. What was the right fit? What was the right kind of person? Spent a lot of time with Coach Tomey about the past and the history of this program, and that was very important to me as well. Talked to Ced Dempsey, again, a couple of people who have done great things while they're here. We developed an outstanding candidate pool, very extensive. Again, as I said, tremendous interest. We went through an extensive process of screening those candidates and vetting them and getting to the right spot. We got down to a small group of finalists. We spent some time with each of them, and you know, Kevin and I met twice in person. We spent we had several phone calls with each other. We went late into Saturday night and and Sunday morning. You know, but I think that's when you understand people. That's when you really start to understand, is it the right fit? And I thought we really connected when we talked on the phone about where we wanted to go with the program, where he was, what he wanted to do. I heard that passion and desire and determination and excitement to be here, to be at Arizona. A guy who wanted to be, has been at, and wants to be at the highest level. You know, we talked about why not here? Why not now? Why not here at Arizona? We can do this right here. I think it was then when I knew that I could finally sleep for a full night. And I was ready to lay down, put my head on the pillow, and said, we've got the right guy. And I was really excited about that and very, very happy. So I want to be clear, Kevin's the only person we offered the job to. He was the first person we offered the job to, and I'm thrilled he accepted the job. And he's going to do great things for us. I look for partners. I want partnerships. I believe in people. I believe that's how you get things done, is leaning on each other, working together, and building something special. And we've got that here, and I'm very, very proud to have Kevin here as another one of our great head coaches as we move Arizona football forward to that next chapter. So it gives me a great deal of pleasure. I'm very honored, too, to sit next to him, but to introduce our next head football coach, the new head football coach at the University of Arizona, Kevin Sumlin. Kevin, congratulations.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for that kind introduction. Good morning. Good morning. Bear down. How's that? There we go. I want to say thank you again to Dave for that introduction, President Robbins. It's thank you for this great opportunity. You know, there's not a lot of presidents across the country that will go with the Stuart Scott reference right off the bat. That's how cool he is, and I think you can see why. I've been a lot of different places, but as Dave said, we hit it off, and President Robbins hit it off because of, I really believe this, you win with people and leadership. And I think you can see where our leadership is in our administration, the kind of people that they are. The vision is clear, and it starts at the top. And I've done this long enough to know that that's extremely important if you want to be successful. A lot of people in the room that I wanted to thank. Since it is full, I was able to meet with our current players this morning. I thought that was important. 7:15. They weren't probably happy because I got them up, and they didn't even know who I was at that point since I got here last night. But we're able to visit because I thought it was important that they understood the direction that we're headed, to give them some stability, to get to know me a little bit before we got going down this road with everybody else, so that they knew their importance and where my priorities lie. In what we're trying to achieve here. We've got a couple of them current students in here, I think, even though we talked about schedule this morning and going to class, so I assume they don't have class right now if they're in here. But we'll get to that later. I appreciate them being here. I also appreciate the former players who are here and guys who came here that some of you guys know me, some of you guys don't, most of you don't. And I just want you to know that you're always welcome in this program. This is your program. Nobody, I've said this wherever I've been, no one knows more or should know more than former players, because you guys played here. You guys sacrificed, did a lot of different things. You guys care. And it's a different level of caring. Because of the sacrifice and the effort that you put in, you're always a part of this program. You're always going to be a part of this program. I was able to meet also with all staff today, and as I get back, I'm a little redundant in saying that you can tell, as I said at the all-staff meeting, that there's a lot of talented people in this athletic department, and really they have set the bar for football. A lot of championship coaches, a lot of championship teams, a lot of national championship teams. And I told them that unless you don't want me around, I'll be at your practices too and asking you questions and bugging you, because there's a wealth of knowledge here. And I really believe that this is a special place. It's a great place to live. I was able to visit here a couple times in the past and stay here a couple days at a time and really liked it. So that part of the transition for me is not that big a deal, but I see great potential in this football program. And as Dave said, we got to talking about what's out there, what people talk about in recruiting, and as a school that hasn't been to the Rose Bowl, to me, you can look at it one way or the other. And in our conversation, it was just what Dave said. I said, it's going to happen. It's just what time is that going to happen, and why not now, and why not us? So our goal here is to win championships, always has been, is always, and to graduate our student athletes, prepare them for life, outside of football, inside of football, if they're playing the NFL, but certainly develop young men and move them from young men to grown men, as I like to talk about. And we've got the tools in place here, structurally, to help that happen. We're gonna keep recruiting and keep building our talent pool. We've got to energize our students and our fan base, and create an atmosphere in the stadium that is a championship atmosphere. As a coach, you have to do all those things, and I understand that. It's more than just football. So we'll be involved in the community. We'll be involved on campus. We will not be an isolated football program with our players. And, it's our job to do our part on the field to create that excitement. And I'm looking forward to that. We talked about the right time. What was the right time? And what was the right time for me in the right place? And certainly, as this opportunity came open, it was the right time for me, and the right place, and the right challenge. And so I just wanted to thank everybody for coming. All these things, I watch them all the time. Every coach is going to win every game. This is the time to get fired up. And, every coach says the same thing at these things. So you're going to find out I'm not that guy. I'm not much of a coach speak guy. but I will tell you the truth, and the truth is that I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be a Wildcat, and I'm excited to say bear down. Thanks. Thank you.
All right, we'll open it up for questions. Again, please identify yourself and wait for one of our microphones to make its way towards you. So, who'd like to open us up? Saul, you win the prize.
Saul Bookman from Daily Wildcat. Coach, how significant is it to you to be the first black head football coach here at this university?
Well, what was your name again? Sorry, Saul. It is significant, but this is my third time being the head coach, and I've been asked that question every time. So, just to put it in perspective, and you know that at a certain point, you know, you look at that, and I've answered that question each time. It is significant, but and it shouldn't be overlooked. But you know, you hope that in time, you know, in the next 5-10 years, that is not the first question you get. And I'm not being disrespectful to that accomplishment or disrespectful to the question, but I think the goal is that question is not only not asked, but it's not the first question that comes out. But I do recognize that. I think, you know, he talked about, you know, Dave talked about Fred Snowden. When I was a kid, you know, I was 8 years old. My dad was football coach in a segregated school system in Bruton, Alabama. For those of you who don't know, that's L.A. It's Lower Alabama. That's what we call it, right? Not the L.A. that's around here. But you know, and he was a coach and then left and coached in primarily. It was not primarily, it was segregated school system. So we moved to Indiana, but he was very proud of Fred Snowden and watched afar. I was 8 years old, so I basically was able to kind of follow his path. And watch what he did from, you know, really, what's that, like 1972 to during that time to, 82, yeah, 72 to 82. So really the formative years of, you know, between 8 and 18, that 10-year period, you know, I kept track of that. And that did have an impact on me because it's such a small town and not a whole lot of people know where it is, nor do they care. And I'll get a bunch of hate mail now from Alabama, which I've gotten before, so at my last place. Anyway, but I think the significance is you're going to move past that. You're an example for a lot of other coaches, and for guys to say, hey, I can do that at the highest level in college football. And, you know, are you proud of that? Yes. But like I said, you know, at a certain point, you hope that your success can help other guys attain this kind of level, and then, you know, it won't be that big a deal.
We're going to go down here to Damien.
Coach Damian Alameda, Tucson News Now. As far as staffing is concerned, I know it's early, but what can you tell us about staffing? You
know, I'll in the next coming days, you know, we've got to work through some things as far as staff. You know, I've got some ideas, and I'll be as open as I can with you during that process. You know, right now it's kind of you got to be pretty guarded because you don't want to put some other people in jeopardy if they have jobs. Let's put it that way, unless you're serious. I have talked and had some discussions with Marcel Yates. So, you know, he will be retained, I can tell you that. Told the team that this morning. I think, you know, change is difficult for young men. Always is. But change is part of life, and you can grow with change. I think the assuring thing I wanted our players to know this morning was that, you know, offensively, we're quite similar in philosophy, a little bit different in what we want to do. Maybe throwing the ball a little bit more and getting explosive plays and scoring points. to get our offensive players and quarterback and Khalil, some guys, some comfort in knowing that, because some of them seen me out here before visiting with our offensive staff and them coming to us. And I thought it was important that with so many young players that started last year that they understood that Marcel was going to be back. And so I think there was a comfort level with those two things. The reason that they came here, whether it was for coaches, but schematically, there's a comfort level with our players this morning. I wanted to leave the building this morning not thinking we're going to run the triple option or we're going to become this all kind of crazy team. So, so they left today feeling good. And then we'll come back and we'll visit that, schematics, and there'll be some subtle changes and hopefully for the better. But I thought it was important today that they knew the direction we were headed and that we were going to get to work this afternoon. And that coaching staff, that process is going right now. But right now, as of right now, that's really where we are.
Hey, Coach Zach.
Yes.
Hello? There we go. Hey, Zach Clark from ESPN Tucson. Coach, I want to go back to Bruton, Alabama for a second. You were getting off the plane last night, and you said a lot of people don't make it out. Talk about...
You're going to get me in real trouble with those guys.
Well, only you'll get in trouble because you'll answer the question. But what does that mean to you, and what does that say about you?
Well, I mean, it's just it's just a different place, and it was different when I was born in 1964, certainly, than it is right now. I'll just put it that way, and I think everybody knows what that means. So I was fortunate to have parents that were educators. That cared about education and moved, and I was one of those guys that my dad was, after he was a coach, was a principal, was a dean of high school. Mom was a third grade teacher. I couldn't go outside and play with my friends until I got my homework done. That was all the way through high school. So, something I didn't like, but obviously made a difference in my life, and so it's not necessarily, it's never about me. What it was about two parents that cared about education and cared about and pushed me to be successful. And so, because of that, that's where I am today. But, it's a different path. Everybody's got a different path. But certainly, as Dave said, I just found it kind of interesting that Coach Snowden was here and kind of laid down this path for me. Maybe, when I was 8 years old. And it's taken me till I'm 53 to get here, but I'm here, and I'm excited to be here.
Hold on a second, my man. Hold on a second. We got Greg Hansen, and then we'll go to Bob.
Greg Hansen, Arizona Daily Star. Kevin, did you take time to think maybe you'd step away for a year, reassess?
I did. That's a good question. And I was quite frank with Dave, and because he asked me that. There was a concern that based on everything that went on at my last place, it was tough. It was tough on me. It was tough on the family. Tough on a lot of different things. And really, that first week or so, I really thought about that. Taking everybody's got advice. It's amazing. You got guys. It's not the guys with jobs that have advice. It's the guys that don't have jobs that are on TV. They got all kinds of advice, right? Because they don't have anything to do either. So, that first week was tough. It's the reality of what you've done since basically I've either played football since third grade. I took 1 year, maybe a year and a half in private business, but other than that, I've been involved in football all my life. And the first week it was a little bit tough because, I was really tired, and then I took some time, left the country for a little bit, and went as far south as I could go without crossing the equator, and actually went 4 days without somebody saying, "Hey, coach," and that was really good for me. And then came back and kind of sat down and started to assess some things. Went to the convention, American Football Coaches Association convention. It really did two things. Did some TV on Sunday and Monday, but spoke at the convention also on Monday and around a lot of other coaches who people actually showed up to hear what I had to say, which was good because I wasn't feeling like that 4 weeks ago. And then being around your peers, you know, you start to get your confidence back and you start to look at some things. Because that first week, after I was let go, I just, you know, people called and I just really didn't feel like it. But over the course of that next 5 or 6 weeks, I got back to being me. And as I said, timing has a lot to do with everything. The timing was right. I felt really, really good about this situation. I had been here before, and the biggest thing for me was I was ready to do it. And after talking, as I said earlier, with the leadership, with our administration, with Dave, and with Dr. Robbins, I had a great feeling about the direction of the university, not just the football program, but the university. And so, that energizing, that was another step in this. So, yeah, that concern is over with. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to hire people. And like I said, it started last night and bouncing around this morning. I don't know if our players were as excited as I was at 7:15 this morning. So, but we'll get them there, and because I'm there and I'm ready to roll.
We go to the back left, Bob, and then over to David Kelly.
Yeah, Bob Baum from Associated Press. What does it mean to you to inherit a program that's got somebody like Khalil Tate to build things around?
Well, you've got other talented players too, but certainly Khalil gets a lot of credit nationally, and rightly so. He's an outstanding football player, but it also takes other guys to be successful in this game. And I've always thought and talked about guys, and being around 4 Heisman Trophy guys, individual awards come from the 10 other guys too. You can't be successful in football without 10 other guys doing what they need to do. So we look at individual awards and accolades as team awards and accolades. So, the ability to grow, the ability for him to get better, that becomes exciting. But, as I've said before, we want to build a program, not just a team. And, individuals can make a team, but it takes more than one, and it takes more than a couple recruiting classes and different and depth to build a program. And certainly right now we're in the middle of recruiting, so we need to hit the ground running and really establish that kind of depth. But he's a special player from outside looking in, and there'll be no shortage of guys that want to coach him, and I'm one of those guys. I'm looking forward to it.
Going back center here with David Kelly.
Coach David Kelly, Tucson News Now, and I want to say I think your players are very excited because I walked by the weight room and it was packed on the way here. So,
that's good.
This question comes actually from a fan, Doug Maxwell in Ames, Iowa, who messaged me the other day, and he wanted to know what lessons you took away from your time with the legendary coach Joe Tiller.
That's a great question. I think I've talked about that a little bit. I was able to make it to the funeral this year. Besides my dad, who passed away a year and a half ago, there hasn't been anybody that was more formative in my life. Here's a man I've known since I was 18 years old. As a player, he was a defensive coordinator at Purdue at a time where, there weren't leather helmets, but only one guy could go to the sideline on a timeout. And so you have those kind of relationships and pressure situations, and that was me. I was in private business, as I said, and then wanted to get out of that and talk to him. Went to Washington State with Mike Price, left Weber State and got the job at Washington State. He hired Joe Tiller as the offensive coordinator, and then I went to Washington State. So that was my first opportunity as a graduate assistant in college football. Joe got the job at Wyoming, and when he became a head coach, he gave me my first full-time opportunity at Wyoming as the wide receiver coach. So I don't know that when it comes to college football at this level, for the guy being the defensive coordinator that decided to start me right when I was as a walk-on and just put me out there anyway, and then brought me to Washington State with Mike Price and as a graduate assistant and gave me my first job. I don't know that it would be possible for me to be a coach at this level without him believing in me early and giving me those opportunities.
We'll go down here. We'll come to you third. Chris, go ahead. And then Justin.
Coach Sumlin, Christopher Bowen, Tucson Local Media. So I'm just curious, National Sunday, as you know, is February 7th. That's 22 days from now. You really don't have a staff in place. What's the philosophy for filling out the recruiting class? You got 16 national letter of intents right now. What are you going to do to finish out the recruiting class, and how much of a rush is it for you to get more names added on in 3 weeks?
I think you've got 3 different things you've got to get done, right? So I've got to, I owe it to the 16 guys who have already signed to get to know them even better, right? So you got to finish that out. You've got 5 or 6 left. You know, we're going to have to evaluate and recruit. I think some continuity will be important. I think our players understanding, our recruits understanding, just like our players this morning, that systematically what's been said is going to be similar. There's going to be some tweaks to it, some more explosive type things, maybe a little bit more aggressive on offense and aggressive on defense, and certainly special teams. But knowing that, you know, what has been said to you before is not a drastically different situation for you. So yeah, you know, the evaluation process of that with those 5 guys, I think 5 or 6 guys, I think that becomes important to finish out this class. But it's not as urgent as, say, if you had 8, right? So you're not looking at as many guys. And I think, you know, this is an example of the early signing day. You know, you got guys who want to be at Arizona. They want to be here. You know, they've signed early. They're ready to go. I've got to communicate with them. And then, you know, these 5 or 6 that are left, we got to evaluate and make sure that they want to be here. And then the other piece is the way I've done things is, you know, we're going to be out evaluating juniors and sophomores because, you know, the majority of this class is, you know, you're 2/3, 3/4 filled. But in order for us to be the program we need to be, as I talked about developing depth, I've got to get out and have a relationship with these high school coaches in the state. I do have a bunch of relationships, obviously in the Phoenix area, a lot, but across the state, number one, and then, you know, be able to talk to them about underclassmen and the direction we're going there. And so it's all those things. It's not just the 5 or 6 scholarships left. And I understand your question about the staff. We'll get that done. And you know, I think what's not lost is it's not like I'm going to be going some places I've never been. I would be more concerned if I was dropped somewhere I didn't know. We know the state pretty well, and I think Dr. Robbins hit it on the head. You know, the places that we're going to go recruit, it's not like they haven't seen me before. And it's not like a lot of those players haven't seen me before. So it's like any other business, it's about relationships, and we have those already. And we'll be able to develop a staff here pretty quickly.
Go Justin and then Jesse.
Coach, Jesse Vanderson from Arizona, former coach. How important is it going to be for you to rebuild Arizona's great legacy of great defensive play? The last 6 years here, we witnessed some of the worst defensive play in school history here. So you got to stop people. So how important is that for you?
That's important anywhere. You know, it's you get into shootouts and things like that. That's one way to win. But you know, I think as you look at football right now, and you look at a lot of these games that are being played, I think it gets frustrating to people about playing defense. You know, I watched a semifinal game. What was the score of that game? Clemson, yeah, 45-42. You know, both people are upset. I think, you know, we have to continue to develop players, and I think consistency and not being able to change all the time in what you're doing helps. You have to have a model that you believe in, and then you have to have depth that you can play at this level, because just 11 guys that can play isn't enough anymore because of no huddle. because of the different styles. And you got to be able to adapt to different styles, to no back, to two-back eye. And the game's changed a lot in the last 10 years. And I think you see that. I think it's evident. You had a national championship game where a team maybe 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, even 5 years ago, would have had two backs in the backfield and doing a lot of different things. They won the game in the second half in an RPO system. They threw the ball 6 straight times for the first touchdown. So things have evolved, and you have to evolve defensively, and you've got to be able to adapt, and you have to be able to defend, run, and pass, unlike maybe a few years ago. But I think the big thing is having a system in place, having depth in place, and then making guys understand and be responsible for what they're doing, no matter what the situation is, and not changing things around all the time, so that you can develop a consistent system on defense and talent. Let's just be honest. It's you can talent and effort, and these guys will get to know. There's no effort is the price of admission, and on the teams that I coach. And we don't. If you don't give us that, then we're not even going to talk about you getting on the field. So that's assumed with us. That's the way we do things. So then after that, you've got to have technique and you got to have talent, and that's where coaching comes in.
Justin Spears here with the Arizona Daily Star. Coach, Herm Edwards up at ASU. It's a new era in the rivalry. I don't know what your relationship like is with him, and what are you looking forward to most about the rivalry?
Anybody looks forward to a rivalry, right? That's why they call them rivalry games. So both sides are excited. I haven't talked to Herm. I had him come speak to our football team 2 years ago, and he was a guy that I thought would come in and energize. He does a great job. Did a great job as an outside speaker. He's a guy that I've done internships with as a younger coach at Tampa Bay Bucks, and so I know him. But when it comes to those types of things, you've even at when I moved to Houston, quick story. It's maybe not on this level, but David Bailiff and I were really close, and as assistant coaches, and the Houston Rice deal, you're playing for a trophy, and we lived in the same neighborhood. Our kids played together, and we were friends really 51 weeks out of the year. So, literally blocks away he lived. We'd give each other rides sometimes, do all that stuff, and our kids. But we wouldn't let our kids play with each other's kids during that week. It's a rivalry, right? We didn't even talk, and we talk all the time. We'd be in each other's backyards because the head coach is hard to go to different places and cookouts. But that week, that's just what it is. So, I don't know that I have that kind of relationship with Herm, but I know that rivalry week, I will have that kind of relationship with him.
Paul, hang tight. We're going back to the right here.
Coach, hi. Greg Curtis from 94.9 XFM Radio here in Tucson. Want to get your thoughts. You've talked about building young men, quality young men out of this program. What are the types of things that you focus on to make that happen, to take these student athletes from good guys to great men?
Well, we're able to. I think you just heard one piece of that. I like to have people that come in and they're outside of football and talk about real life. Not just me, not just in the building, but people who have real life experiences to share and examples, both good and bad, to share with young men that, hey, I've heard of this guy, or here's where he came from, he's successful. I think it's also important that our players have access to the not-so-good stories, that I've heard of this guy and look at him now. Here are the mistakes he made. And it's like anything else in coaching, you talk all the time about, it's okay to make a mistake, all right? Let's not make the same mistake again. Or we put you in the game and you make the same mistake that he just made, right? You need to pay attention to those things. And really, to me, that applies to life too. And, you're going to make mistakes. Okay, let's clean that up. Or if you have that example in front of you where that person's made, let's not make the same mistake he made. So we'll do that. We want to grow people, and we talk about in recruiting physically, all right, mentally, spiritually, across the board. And we have open, frank discussions about that. And, with some of our counseling, some of the things that we have in place to help guys in socially, I think that becomes important too. But we certainly have the resources here, which we've talked about, that are internal in our building, and structurally to help young men grow. But it's also our job, my job, and our coaching staff's job to help them grow because we're with them a bunch. And those stories, those examples, the men that talk to them every day. We're not going to have a coach in our program, and I say this in the hiring process. You got kids. You're not going to come in this building and treat our players any differently than you're going to treat your own kids. Does that mean you're going to see eye to eye every day? No. But what that does mean is we're going to treat you with respect because we demand respect from you. And I think you have really be able to communicate with players nowadays. I think, there was a time where I was just talking to somebody today, when a coach told you to do something, you just did it, and if you went home and you didn't like it, then they'd say, Mom, Dad say, well, what did the coach say, right? It's a little bit different nowadays. And I think our guys need to understand why we're doing something, and from that communication piece, have a clear, defined role of what's expected of them, and hold to that standard, hold them to the standard as a coach, and not have one player do this and one player do that. Consistency is important. We talked about that this morning, and those are life lessons that help guys grow. And it's not all about football either, but there's a lot of lessons in football that are going to help these guys in life, and that's our responsibility.
We're going to go Paul, Jason, and then down here to Greg.
Hey, Coach, first of all, welcome to the old Pueblo here in Tucson, Arizona. My name is Paul Cicala. I work for KVOA News 4 Tucson, the NBC affiliate. You talk about player development from being a student athlete to their development on the field and obviously in the future. And I know you've worked with great quarterbacks like Johnny Manziel. You have an opportunity to really see the development of Khalil Tate. What's it mean for you also to have coached Case Keenum and to see him develop into the pro NFL player that he is?
It's you get credit for a lot of things. In our meetings with quarterbacks, you deal a little bit different with them because one of the first meetings that we have, I talk pretty frankly about the quarterback, relationship with the head coach, because the reality is in that meeting with the quarterbacks, it's pretty simple. The quarterback and the head coach get way too much credit when we win, and we get most of the blame when we lose. So from that standpoint, we got to have a relationship, and they've come in all sizes. And like I said, you've got a guy in Oklahoma that Jason White, who ends up winning the Heisman. We didn't even know he was going to start at the beginning of the year. You've got guys that Case Keenum was splitting time with another quarterback when I got there. So we made that decision, and let's be honest, it's taken him 6 years. He's been cut from every team he's been on. He's on Hard Knocks last year at the beginning of the year, and now he's on a different team going to and winning championship football. A guy who didn't even get drafted. Or you have a Sam Bradford who's, those guys are drafted very high. So, these guys come in all shapes and sizes. They're all different. I think what I've been able to do, whether it's as an assistant coach, coordinator, head coach, we've been able to adapt our offense and continue to grow guys. And there'll be no shortage of guys across the country based on the excitement of play that Khalil brings, that are going to look hard at Arizona. We got weather, we got everything it takes, and dynamic players somehow have a way of bringing other dynamic players with them, guys that want to play with them. And, if you're utilizing those systems right, we've proven that we've been able to do that. So we're excited to get started, and we'll see where it goes. But certainly he had a great year last year, and we'll look to grow on that.
You got Jason in the back.
Hi, Coach. Jason Barr, KGUN 9 and CW Tucson. When your predecessor, Rich Rodriguez, took the job, he said that he consulted his predecessor, Mike Stoops, and that they were good friends and actually got a little advice on the job. You were at the AFCA. Did you feel a need maybe to chat with Rich Rod and get any advice on the job, or was that not necessary?
I haven't talked to him yet. It's something that's going to happen because, quite frankly, I've been running like crazy here. I know both of those guys. Obviously, I worked at Oklahoma with Mike. So I've got some insight there. I was able to talk to Coach Tomey yesterday. I thought that was important just to get a feel. I've known him for a long time. I know that he's involved here in the community. He's got great love for the university. And we talked a little bit. Of course, he was in Hawaii. That's where he is. If he's not here, he's in Hawaii all the time. And we talked a lot about former player engagement. I just want to kind of get the lay of the land because of, from a consistency standpoint, and Rich won games, but from a consistency standpoint of this university being a nationally recognized powerhouse football team, really I think Coach Tomey was that time period. And so, I told him at A&M, there was a locker in our coach's locker room for R.C. Slocum because it's the same kind of thing, and I wanted him to be honest with me if he came to practice to tell me what he saw because he cares. And we talked about former player engagement and guys that want to be around the program in different capacities. So, I think from a historical standpoint, that was important for me. And I think from a community and player engagement, former player engagement standpoint, that's important for me too. So I'm looking forward to him coming back and being around and helping in that way because his success here, is historical, and he cares. He cares greatly about the program right now, and that kind of passion and knowledge, I think we need in this building and need to be around. So, I'll talk to those other guys, but right now we got recruiting, we got all kinds of stuff going on. But I was really, really happy to talk to Coach Tomey yesterday.
We've got time for two more. We'll start with Greg. Ari.
Coach, welcome to town.
Where you at?
Down here.
Oh, right here.
How you doing? It's good to meet all three of you. Greg Moore, sports columnist, Arizona Republic. So listen, part of the reason the job was open was because of the environment around the program, right? So what are you going to do to make sure you're instilling a different environment, and making sure that the program goes in a different direction inside?
Well, I think it gets back to what I just talked about, right? And it's that's an everyday question. I think I've answered a bunch of that just with how we do things. From everyday business, just starting off this morning with that meeting, and I told Dave it's not going to be a fire and brimstone. I told them today I don't have a bunch of Newt Rockney speeches, right? You run out of that real quick. The first year that works, and then you start having to make up stuff. I've been doing this 10 years now. You don't have, that's a lot of weeks in 10 years to come up with some real tearjerkers or barn burners. So, I'm me, and I think the way we approach this thing is we talked this morning about me being truthful to them and building this thing on truth and trust, because they don't, like I said today, some guys may know of me, I may know a couple guys in this program, but most of them don't know me. And I've got to get to know them, and they've got to get to know me. And then the quicker you can build that trust, I think real growth happens a lot faster when people trust you. Okay, so does that mean you got to be able to talk? That means you got to be able to maybe tell somebody something that they don't know, or tell them something that they don't want to hear. And but also know that, as I said before, you got to do it in a respectful way, because what we're trying to do is help you grow, and that, I think, that creates respect. And so all those things. It's not just one thing. I think it's all those things, and I really believe this. Young guys now want to be coached. They want discipline, and I think you can push people as hard as you want, and you can, if they know it's not just about you. And we'll start talking about that attitude in this room. It's about us. It's not about one guy. It's not about one coach. It's about everybody. And your role is as important as the best player on the team, because it takes 11 guys. One guy screws it up, the best guy on the team, it can't get anything done. Right? So anybody that we send out there, you're as important as anybody that's on that field, and you're also as responsible as anybody out there to know what you're doing, but also to be consistent in your life off the field, so that we can count on you being there, not being suspended, not doing the right thing. So that responsibility is a big deal. Teaching responsibility, and then owning up to that, and being able to handle that is more than just, again, like I said, there's football lessons, but a lot of these lessons are life lessons, and we try to apply them that way. And we're counting on you to know what you're doing. You're not necessarily going to get it done right every time, but you are responsible to know what you're doing. And you might get whipped a couple times. That's physical, okay? But if you don't know what you're doing and you're not doing it with effort, we don't have any time for you. You have that responsibility to every man in this room.
Last one for Ari in the back.
All right, Kevin, Ari Alexander, News 4 Tucson, NBC here in Tucson. You mentioned earlier that you want to be the guy to take Arizona to its first Rose Bowl. You want to be a guy to want to win championships here. Based on your evaluation of the team and the program, what do you think it is about this program that makes it possible for you to accomplish those goals?
Well, I think, I've always been that kind of guy. That's just me. And regardless of where we played, I was at Purdue, and I think it was 40-some years before since they'd gone to the Rose Bowl. And that helped that there was a guy named Drew Brees there. That always helps, all right? But you got there, right? And when they said that wasn't going to happen, it took 40 years. So wherever I've been, that's you look at situations, you look at challenges, you like those. But you also look, as I said at the beginning, you win with people. And not just players, but people. And clearly, these two men sitting next to me have a vision, and a vision that matches. And it starts at the top, and we've got to do our part. And as I said earlier, there's a lot of things involved in this. It's not just Saturday, the 3 hours, or the games. We've got to get our recruiting going. We've got to get our students engaged. We need an atmosphere at our stadium that helps in recruiting, whether that's from the community, whether that's our student involvement. We're going to work at that and create a place that people want to be, and then go play the games, right? And so that there's a lot of things to that, except not just winning football games, but it's also about engagement, and as I said, about former players, about the community, about our students. And that atmosphere becomes important. And we've got to do our part. Don't get me wrong. We got to do our part and win games to continue that. But recruiting depth and having an opportunity to do that, I think we do. I think location becomes important, and this location is a great location for recruiting based on, our primary recruiting areas in state, in California, Texas, Vegas, some of these areas. where we've had success at other places, and so you know, it's not just one thing; it's a combination of things. Just like I said, just like the culture piece. So all those things are in place, and that's why we better wrap this thing up pretty quick because I got to get to work. I got a lot to do. Huh? How about that?
All righty. As we set for the photo op, I want to remind everybody, honored guests who are here, if you want to hang around, we'll give you a chance to visit with Coach Sumlin. And Dave Hickey will be available on that side of the room for informal interviews. So we're going to.
Okay.
All right.